Hello and welcome to another installment of Naughty Zoot Presents. Today we will be making tiny pies. For this I suggest a bottle cap. And just a quick thing to say before we get started. If you happen to really like my shirt, I can do a tutorial video on that because I happen to have made it. So it's a really fun project, really easy once you get started, and totally addictive, so bear that in mind. Let's get started. So what I started doing was I took a ball of translucent clay about this big and a ball of tan clay about like maybe a third or a half of the size of that, and I started mixing it together, and as you can see it's almost completely blended. And the nice thing about translucent clay, I can't stress this enough, is that especially if you're running out of a color, you can add it and it won't dilute it as much as adding white. So you can have more clay without having less color. So I will show you how to roll it out and put it in the bottle cap. And quick note about bottle caps, you don't want soda bottle caps unless they're metal, because you just cannot put plastic in a clay oven, just like you can't put Sculpey in a microwave. And if you do that, then, well, you're incredibly stupid, because the fumes will kill you. So just don't do that. And so I will show you how to roll this out with my lovely rolling pin, because I found it. And this is a plexiglass rolling pin, and it's great because they're durable and they have a pretty good non-stick surface, so any kind of clay residue that's stuck to it, you can just scrape it off and keep going and it won't contaminate your colors. So it's probably like maybe $10, really good investment. I suggest adding it to your Sculpey kit. So I have this all rolled out nice and thin, and the good thing is, since no one's actually going to be cutting your pie, you can have this serve as just the top crust, because no one will know whether or not you have a bottom crust. So I'm going to show you how to do a woven top crust so that all of your lovely berries and your work on those will be visible, and all of your layers of work will be appreciated, which is really the goal of this sort of project. And again, it would really be great if I had a straight razor or an X-Acto knife, but I just don't. Take a pair of scissors that you don't care about, that you don't mind getting all gummed up, and just, you can totally just take it and cut the strips. It does work. I just, again, recommend that it's scissors that you really don't plan on using for anything else, because it will get gummed up with clay. So just cut those into strips, and just bear in mind how thick your strips are, because that's how much will cover the clay. And if you cut them a little bit too thick, you can always stretch them, but it's best to be really mindful how thick you're cutting them, because if you stretch them, you can always rip them. So I'm just going to put that down because I'm sure that you get the gist of cutting strips. And I will move on to the section about berries. So what you're going to need is a smallish ball of bright red clay, a medium ball of kind of like a purple fuchsia clay, and a large ball of translucent. And you're going to mix that together, and those will be your berries. So just condition it and mix it until you're satisfied that it's the color that you want. You can alter the formula by adding blue if you want it to be darker, or like even brown really if you want it to be like a really more natural color, but I'm probably going to rely a little more heavily on the painting afterwards. And oh my, this is really bright. Clearly I misjudged the formula for mixing stuff, so I'm going to try to remedy that by adding some of this dark purple. And it's really important to just be really patient with yourself if you're not quite sure how to get the exact color that you want, because it's not always easy. And mistakes can happen, but they are also totally fixable. See, that's becoming a much more natural berry-like color than that crazy nonsense that I had a few seconds ago. So just mix this together and don't stress about it. And once I'm done with this, I will show you how to make little berries, so that you don't drive yourself absolutely insane doing individual little dots on every single individual raspberry. I'm going to just suggest a nice cheating method for the first layer of them, the one that would inevitably be covered up. You just kind of roll it out and take your bottle cap and just kind of put your flattened piece in it, and as you can see, it's going to make your work a lot easier because it's already covered that bottom layer, and all you need are just a few ones on top. So just make sure that that's all nice and patted down, and onto the really, really nitpicky stuff. So as you can see, I've already started adding some of the berries, and luckily, since raspberries are already really, really small, you don't have to worry too much about making them look really detailed. Just make sure that you make your berries look like they're individual. So I'm just gonna keep breaking off pieces with my fingernail. Breaking off the pieces for the berries is really easy and really mindless, but it does take quite a while to actually cover the surface with enough berries and enough depth to make it look like a genuine pie. So if you're going to do this, make sure that you have something to amuse you for maybe 15 minutes. But just remember that no matter how long it takes you, it is totally worth it because it looks so much more realistic this way. Just be really gentle with your strips of clay, and just remember that it's exactly the same as weaving anything else. In case you're still really not sure just by the still shots, here's a video of me doing this. I'm pretty much doing this one-handed because I'm holding the camera. So, as you can see, it's totally, like I said, just like weaving anything else. It's really simple. You just have to position it really gently. And as you progress farther with your pie crust, it should begin to look something like these images. If you think you've started to mess up and you get really frustrated, you can always just remove the top and start again, because chances are it's not completely stuck. So it's really forgiving. So at this point, I would suggest, like, when you're happy with it, just start tapping down the little edges to make it look more realistic, like the dough has sunken a little bit. And this will also help to secure the top so it won't come off as easily. And hopefully it's just, it won't come off once it's baked anyway. But if you're concerned about it, after the baking, you can always use some sort of acrylic medium to cover it to make it stick even better. And I would really recommend that, actually. So at this point, you have a finished pie. It's ready to go in the clay oven. The recommended heat to bake your Sculpey at is 275 degrees, and if you forget, it's always printed on the Sculpey packages. And you want to leave it in there, it really doesn't take very long, especially if it's something the size of a bottle cap. I'd say that if you're going to bake that by itself, it would probably take 5 minutes. And you preheat it for 20 minutes, and then you put it in, and then you let it bake on the full heat for 5 minutes, then you turn it off and let it sit until it's completely cool, and it should be just fine. It should be absolutely perfect. And it's really, I guess for this pie, it's really optional if you want to add any acrylic detailing. I'm going to as soon as it comes out of the oven, so I'll show you how to do that in a few minutes. But yeah, it's totally optional, and if you're not sure about your skills on that, just, you know, you can totally leave it like this and it'll look just fine.